Hello, options traders. Steve Gans here, and I'm going to share a concept trade here with you. I will tell you up front that I have personally made this trade and I bought thousands of shares of this particular company. So I'm disclosing that up front. The company's name is Lucid, and I want to give you a little backstory on it, on how I ran into it. I'm often asked by people, where do you get your ideas? How do you decide what to invest in? I was wandering around a mall down in San Diego back around Christmas time or so, and I ran across a Lucid store. Now, Lucid is an automobile manufacturer that is based here in California, and I was extremely impressed with their car. They had a car store in the mall concept that you see people doing anymore, and their models were just beautiful looking, very well appointed, etc. I don't currently have a car. I don't go much of anywhere, so my wife and I share a car. I've had a number of Teslas and other things in the past, but I take my motorcycle pretty much everywhere now. But the gentleman said, "Why don't we go for a drive?" So I went out for a drive in this car, and it just blew my mind as to the level of quality, the level of performance. Now, I had a pretty hot Tesla. I had the Tesla P90, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, etc. This thing crushes that. It's 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It's bigger than the Tesla. It has a range that is 500 miles between charges. Now, I started doing, when I got back from the mall, I did order a car that'll be here in a few weeks, but in addition to that, I started doing a deeper dive on this company and their technology. Really unique. The gentleman that is the CEO of the company actually was the Tesla Model S designer working for Elon Musk back in the day. And he wanted to bring a higher level product than the S to market, something more luxurious. He and Elon had a falling out. He ended up going out on his own, and he developed all new battery and motor technology. This company has the most efficient motor on the planet. They build all of their own parts here in the United States. They build the cars in outside of Tucson, Arizona. Their corporate offices are in Newark, California. But what's interesting about them, they won Motor Trend Car of the Year in 2023, and there just weren't enough of them on the road. It just never crossed my radar. But when it did cross my radar, it did it in a big way. Again, extremely impressed. So I started again in my deep dive. Now, this company right now is trading at around $3. Now, I started buying a bunch of it back in here in the $2.50 range. But a couple things that are important to note with this company. First of all, I think you need to look at some of the recent news. So I'll pop that up on the screen here now. And pay close attention to those two articles and the way that their sales are growing significantly. Now, on top of that, I want you to see who the buyers are of this stock. Take a look at this, and you can see that there is massive buying, billions of dollars in buying by the Saudi investment fund. Now, Lucid has also built a plant in Saudi Arabia that's going to be coming online soon, and they want to provide the highest quality, highest performance electric vehicle throughout the Middle East markets and the European markets as well. Lucid, again, U.S. company, plant in the U.S., they've designed all of their own architecture in these cars, all the way down to their self-driving capabilities. And I will be the first to admit their self-driving capabilities right now probably aren't quite on the level with where Tesla is, but they're gaining fast and they're doing updates over the air. But what is the catalyst here? So why am I looking at this now? And keep in mind, this can be a risky investment because they are dumping massive amounts of money at this stage. But they're dumping those massive amounts of money basically in launching a new vehicle. Now, the Lucid Air is actually what I've ordered here, a four-door sedan. Again, very high performance vehicle, 500 miles of range. But the Lucid Gravity is their new SUV that is just starting to roll out now. They've delivered about 50 or so of them in January. And I haven't seen this model personally yet or driven it, but I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of articles on it. Now, this is a vehicle that is about the size of a traditional luxury sedan, but it apparently has the interior space, the interior room, close to a Suburban. And again, also very significant range. I believe it's 450 miles is what that vehicle slated to be at. So in the US, obviously, SUVs have been kind of king for a number of years. So the fact that Lucid has been growing their sales every single month in their sedans, and now this new SUV will be kicking in here starting again this quarter, I think we're going to see some much higher levels of growth coming out of them. And obviously, it's going to take a while for them to get to some profitability. But as this car starts to grow, in my mind, having been an owner of 3 different Teslas, I consider the Tesla the best EV out there. This car crushes it every way you can imagine. Range, comfort, luxury, ride, handling, again, with the one possible exception of the self-driving capabilities. They're not up to the Tesla standard there right now, in my mind. Knowing that I want to invest in this, knowing that I want to own shares, what are the couple possibilities here? I could come in and I could just buy the stock. As we see, the stock right now is trading for $3.50. And I have done that. I have gone in and bought quite a few shares of Lucid. Now, another possibility is I could buy Leaps. That is a long-dated option. In this case, I'm going out to January, so this is 2 years out in the future. And I could buy, for example, the 350 calls, and I can buy that for $1.80. At this point, where I normally use Leaps is if a stock is very expensive, let's say this stock we're trading at $400 or something like that, I could probably buy the Leaps for maybe $20 or so. In other words, I wouldn't have to spend nearly as much money on that Leap option. But I need to understand that this amount that I pay for this option is going to decay out from under me. At the end of 2 years, all of this amount will have decayed out. At that point, I know that I will have lost that $1.85. The question is this going to grow fast enough to where I don't really care about that? Doesn't make a difference. So in this particular situation, assuming you want to own it, and again, you may look at this and say, woo, too risky for me, not someplace I want to go. But if I were to want to be an owner of this, am I going to buy the stock in this case at $3.47? Or am I going to buy the long call at $1.85? Recognizing that my maximum risk here, if I bought 100 shares, my maximum risk is $347. That's the most I could potentially lose. Where if I bought the Leaps, I'd spend $185 for one Leap that represents 100 shares, and that would be the maximum amount I could lose. I will tell you in my particular case, I've chosen to buy the stock directly, but I have a larger account that can support that. But I wanted to share this. I'm going to go ahead and model this as though I am buying 5 Leaps at the $3.50 call. That's the strike price on these. I'm going to pay $1.85 for them. So I'm going to go ahead and basically save this trade, and I'm going to mark this trade in my start to finish series, and I'll just put buying Leaps on Lucid. And they have their earnings report next week. Now, I'm expecting to hear things in that earnings report, such as we're still losing a lot of money. But I'm also expecting to hear things about the new shipment of the Gravity, the new SUV that is being put out, and how those are ramping up, and how the deliveries on their regular sedans are also ramping up as more and more people become aware of them and learn about them. A couple other facts here that I think are important to know as well is they have signed a contract with Aston Martin, and if you're familiar with Aston Martin, a very high-end luxury brand of sport car, And Aston Martin is going to be making electric vehicles in the not too distant future. And they're using Lucid's motor technologies in there. They're buying the motors and battery components from Lucid to power those vehicles. Now, the car I bought, four-door sedan, 850 horsepower. So 0 to 60, 3 seconds in a big sedan. So it's a very high performance vehicle, high performance motors, but they also get 5 miles per kilowatt hour. That's how you would measure motor efficiency. It's like saying I get 10 miles per gallon or 50 miles per gallon. They get 5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is the most efficient electric motor on the planet right now. And one other thing is, if you're familiar with Formula One racing, there's also a series called Formula E. Formula E is Formula One cars that are all electric vehicles. All the motors for Formula E are provided by Lucid as well. It's all their technology that has been sold to those racing vehicles. So again, they're really starting to get, I think, a pretty good foothold out there in the marketplace. Obviously, they're still burning lots of cash, but I see a very bright future for this company over the long term. And I personally have chosen to own not only their car, but their stock. And if all goes according to plan, in a year or two, this stock will easily pay for the car. All that, of course, remains to be seen, but I just wanted to share this concept. Again, the goal was to show you how I see something, I start to research it, and then I go down the rabbit hole and decide, yep, I want to own some of this. And then I look at my options for owning it, which are, again, buying Leaps or buying the stock itself. In my case, I chose to buy the stock itself. But for the purposes here, I'm modeling as that's it. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. If you've got any comments or questions, feel free to put them in there as well. I always read those and I appreciate the input. Take care, everyone. Thank you.